What is water use? Let's define it. Water use and or water requirement. Water is essential to all of us. That is, many times it is considered as elixir of life. Water is considered as elixir of life, and water is essential of anything in human existence. Human health and socio-economic welfare is dependent on adequate supplies of suitable quality water. Availability of water has played a key role in the development of civilization since ancient times. That if water is not available in plenty, in sufficient quantity, then we have seen that many civilizations shifted from one location to other, and the major source of settlement, major source of development of civilization was the river water, pond water, lake water, fresh water, sweet water availability, and this requirement led them to flourish in or around the zones of water resources. Water is required for different purposes in society. These are very self-explanatory kind of bullets. We can understand that we require water for drinking. We require in manufacturing and industry, that producing goods, growing food in fields like in agriculture, we need water. Mostly the water is consumed in agriculture. If you look at the total requirement, out of that 80% water is supplied to the agricultural farms for growing food. Ultimately we consume those food grains and food, fruits, vegetables, and we are consuming that 80% water which were supplied to the agriculture. So indirectly we are the end users of all the requirements. So growing food is also a requirement. Producing and using energy, hydropower especially in this case, what is the requirement of water? That producing hydroelectric power, that most of the countries are not self-sufficient in energy resources. So is the case of India. Most of the states of India are not self-sufficient in energy resources. So they need to trap whatever energy sources are available, like wind or the water or tidal. So all these energy resources are to be captured and need to produce more and more energy for the sake of development of the society. So water is also required here for the hydroelectric power generation. Removing waste is also essential, that in the sewer lines or in the drainage lines, water if is not available, then waste would get deposited into such system, open sewer line system or closed conduit system. Removing that waste becomes problematic to the society. So to remove what we need, the flow of water, velocities of water maintained throughout the sections of sewer lines. So what is required? The water is also a requirement in this case, and we need water for recreational purposes, like many recreational facilities are based on water. Apart from those mentioned areas where we require water requirement also, the water required for each of these activities changes with that. The impact of the total water requirement is affected with these many things, that climatic conditions. Within India, there are many states. Some are hot, some are like Kashmir, cold conditions prevail. So the total water requirement there, or per capita water requirement, not only for drinking, not only for agriculture, but in total on annual basis that what is the total water requirement of different states or different countries globally, then the climatic conditions are playing a greater role in deciding the total water requirement. We have to take care in calculation of total water requirement within our country, state-wise or say district-wise. Within Gujarat, if we look at, then certain parts are very hot, like the run of Kutch or the Saurashtra, and if we move towards the southern part of Gujarat, then they are not as much as the western parts or the Bhuj and Kutch are. So the water requirement in terms of drinking or for agriculture is different from the southern part of the Gujarat state. The water requirement also changes with the lifestyle, culture. Traditionally, we are conservative people. We don't we make best use of the water. We don't waste water. We generally go for multiple use of water, say using water for one particular activity, we reuse this for say gardening or washing utensils, etc. So if these lifestyle is changing or culture is changing from one point to other, from north to south or west to east, then we'll find that the water requirement also getting changed. So while studying water requirements, for that purpose, why we are studying water requirement, that we need to design our facilities, we need to design infrastructure to meet these water requirements, to supply water for various purposes. So we need to understand that how the lifestyles and culture give an impact on water requirement. Traditions in society or segments of society, dietary conditions in a particular segment of society, then the advancement of technology also affect the requirement. Like in irrigation, it is proving like a boon with the latest technology, latest technical inputs into the agricultural domain. Irrigation, you might have heard that the artificially we apply water to the crops, and that is nothing but irrigation. In irrigation, earlier it was like open to sky, water is led to the farms and water is applied directly to the plants, and plants were growing and consuming water. That was large quantities. Nowadays we are switching over to sprinkler irrigation systems and the drip irrigation system, which directly place water drops to roots of these plants, and saving water in conveying the water from one point to other, and efficiently applying that water to the root zone of the plants. So per drop water is the output is coming more from the same water. One more point in this, that how the water requirement gets affected, is the wealth. If society is wealthy and they can say sustain heavy charges on water, they mostly tend to use more water, and also the wastage of water would be more in such society. So such areas or such situations affect the water requirement, and we should be vigilant while calculating the water requirement to decide the water facilities, water infrastructure of a city, town or a region, or of the country. The water availability to society is an important factor in ascertaining the total water use, and this is reverse of what we calculate. First we calculate and then decide what should be the water quantity available. Here in the second statement, what we are discussing, that water is available this much only, and we have to deal with that much water quantity, so that if water availability is restricted, we have to have restricted water uses, restricted water uses all through. some of the facts which we need to discuss while understanding the water infrastructure facilities, water structures, or for that matter we call them the hydraulic structures. So water availability facts, if you look at these bullets, India accounts for 15% of the world population. That is 15%, and what is about 4% of the world water resources. So this is very big mismatch, that per capita availability of water is going to be less. 15% population and 4%. So in comparison to many nations, other countries, India per capita water availability is going to be less. Live water storage capacity of India is about 253 billion cubic meters so far. This is live, which is usable, which can be supplied to, which can be made available to the use of the general public in the country. So live water storage capacity in form of say dams, in form of say ponds, in form of say tanks, all through what is available, the live water storage capacity annually in India is about 253 billion cubic meter BCM. BCM is the unit mostly taken that also to calculate the per capita requirement and per capita availability. This chart will give you more insight into the water availability in India, that is the per capita availability of the water. Right from after the independence, that 1951, the water availability 5,000, and it is gone down in 1991 to 2,000, and in 2001, 2025, and 2050 we have not crossed this 2025 and 2050 situation, but definitely we have crossed 2001 year. Now water availability, if you see on two axes, that x-axis and y-axis, then on y-axis years 51, 91, 2001 to 2025, 2050, and on to y-axis what is water availability in terms of cubic meter per capita per year, that how much water is available, 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, and it is reducing because of the population explosion during 70s, 80s and 90s. The rate of reduction seems very less during after this 2001, but there are two lines drawn across this graph on y-axis, that one is representing 1,700 cubic meter requirement per capita per year, and second line, red line, which is representing water scarcity line, and that is the 1,000 cubic meter requirement per capita per year requirement. Now if we look at 2001 data available, then the India was just on the verge of that is just 1,800 something water availability was. It was not water stressed at that time, but certainly at this juncture 2016 we are water stressed. We have entered already into the water stressed situation, but we have not yet reached. And we probably, as per this projected data, to 2025 and 2050 are projected data of the Water Resources Ministry, that what would be the water as per the expansion of population and water availability, what would be water availability per capita. It is not going to be water scarcity, it is not crossing the water scarcity, but definitely we are far below from the water state line. So we have to become very vigilant to consider the infrastructure of water resources, or to manage the water resources. The similar data which were there in the chart are placed here in tabulated form. almost similar data. You could not take a note of all these data, that population, how was the population and per capita availability. So increasing, the 2025 things are projected in red color, and rest of the things were observed, and data were taken by the Ministry, Government of India, Ministry of Water Resources during 2009. These calculations shows the projections during 2009 period. Water requirement sectors, that sectors in a sense that they are big domains where water need to be supplied, or water would be demanded, or water would be required. Say domestic. In domestic, we need water for different purposes, not only for drinking. We need for washing utensils, we need it for plants, we need it to wash clothes, or we need it to wash parkings, roads, etc. in domestic domain. Likewise, we need water for irrigation, we need water for industrial, we need water for hydroelectric power generation. We have already talked on these topics, but these are definitely sectors where water need to be predominantly supplied. Water sectors, requirement sectors are also navigational. Navigational, especially that we need to maintain depth for the large ships, so carrying the cargo. So navigational purposes, we need water. In many rivers, these navigational facilities are provided, and depth should be maintained, so we need water for that purpose. For recreational purposes, water is required. For fishery, that a large quantum of our population is dependent, and fishery is also prominent business, or say a livelihood area in coastal regions. So for that purpose, we need to maintain the water requirement, and for maintaining ecosystem, that certain part of the water need to be maintained in river to maintain the ecosystem. This is the tabulated data about the sector-wise future demand. National Commission for Integrated Water Resources Development, NCIWRD. This data projected by this agency, and the data is projected for the 2025 and 2050. Like irrigation, there is requirement increasing over the years 2010, 25, 50, 557. This demand is cumulative for whole population in billion cubic meter. If you look at the unit on the top, that sector-wise future demand, then it's in billion cubic meter, and sector-wise demand, domestic demand is increasing tremendously, 43 going double, almost more than that. Triple, 43 to 111, then industrial demand, then energy sector, then other all other requirements, recreational, navigational, fisheries, etc. So that is also increasing. It is going from 710 to 843 to 1180 billion cubic meter. If we look at the 710 figure of 2010, that what is the demand, then per capita demand is in 2010 is 7 per, if we compute to the per capita demand, total BCM is total requirement of 2010. 2010 is what 710 BCM. Total of 2010, 7 BCM. If we take population during this similar time period, we can assume a total population of 1.2 billion of the country. Then the per capita, this is population, we can say people here in our country, this is total demand, water demand. Now you cut it short here. What is coming out here is approximately, you can look at that 600 cubic meter water required per capita. This is requirement. Earlier we have seen what is available is less. So we need to be very vigilant about creation of such to mitigate or say fulfill such demands in this society. This scenario which is leading that the availability of water is not as per what is the requirement, that water is available in lesser quantity compared to available. So what we have to do, that we have to conserve the water to meet the demands or water requirement of the future. Like we have seen the projections of 2025 and 2050. So what we have to do, that we have to go for conservation methods, that we are controlling our water requirements through adopting best practices, through adopting technology, through adopting various methods to increase the efficiency of what we have today in our hand. So water conservation, we have to understand what is water conservation first, and then we'll switch over to various methods of conserving water. Water conservation refers to preservation, that we are preserving, we are keeping it, we are not wasting it. Water conservation refers to preservation. Control, we are controlling it, not letting it go. And development of water resources, that water which there are ponds which store lesser water, we have to develop them to store more water, not allowing this water to go, not allowing that water to get exploited. So what conservation refers to, that is not one thing, it is preservation, control and development of water resources. We are doing all three things. We are preserving water resources, we are controlling water resources, at the same time we are developing water resources. That is what is in totality water conservation is known as. Water conservation is known not only for conserving, only keeping it in the black boxes or the controlled boxes, but we are preserving it, we are controlling it, we are developing it. Both surface and groundwater, all three things are applicable for both things, that surface water and groundwater, so as to meet current and future human demand. That if we target only the surface water or only the groundwater, we are not going to survive or we are not going to meet the requirement. So we have to conserve water, both level, both availability of the water, that is the surface water resources in form of rivers, lakes, and groundwater available in the earth formation. So we have to look at that, preserving the water resources, controlling the water resources, and developing those water resources. Water conservation, it also encompasses prevention of water pollution. That I have kept this single bullet in this slide purposefully to give the impact that the pollution is, we are not controlling water, we are not keeping in good, we are not maintaining the quality of water, and leading it for unsafe for the use. So what happens that if we are not preventing water from pollution, then we are making it unsuitable for drinking, we are making unsuitable for washing, we are making unsuitable it for agriculture. So that water which is getting polluted or is already polluted is we can consider that water doesn't exist in the system or in water balance. So when we conduct water studies, water balance studies, that polluted water is and cannot be considered as water part of water resource available with us. So what we say, conservation is also, it encompasses prevention of water from pollution. Objectives of water conservation. Sustainability is a very big term which is generally used in water resources management, and especially in water conservation. Water conservation is meant to have a sustainable water resource development. What is sustainability? To ensure availability of water for future generations, the withdrawal of fresh water from an ecosystem should not exceed its natural replacement rate or replenishment rate. That whatever we withdraw water should get replaced with the rainfall, or from the ice melt, or some other sources from where we are getting. So sustainability teaches us, or it gives us a kind of idea that we need to maintain the availability of water for coming generations also, that water is available for the future generations also. If withdrawal is more, which was the case in many areas for the groundwater, that groundwater is depleting, it is going down. Earlier it was 50 feet down the ground level, now it is available 300, 400, 500 or more than that below the ground level. So that is not sustainable, or sustainability of the groundwater resources. So in case of the water conservation, sustainability is a very important thing. We have to consume only that much water which we could add into the system, and if we are not doing that, if we are not developing or applying water sustainably, then what would happen, that one day we'll cross the line of water stress, water scarcity, that is the 1,000 cubic meter per capita annually, and that is a chaotic situation. In a sense that the people are fighting for the water, or the states are fighting for the water, or different countries are having disputes and wars based solely on the water requirement, or they are fighting for the water rights. The second objective of water conservation is the energy conservation. That conserving water leads to energy conservation. The meaning of this objective is that if we are conserving water, indirectly we are saving energy as high as 15% of the total electric consumption in many cases. How? That let's see, that water pumping, delivery and wastewater treatment facility consume a significant amount of energy. In some regions, over 15% of total electricity consumed is devoted to water management. So look at 15% of the total. If we could save this 15%, we could be using this energy less, and we can utilize this available energy for many other developmental work in this society. So water conservation leads to saving or energy conservation also. The objective of one more objective of the water conservation is habitat conservation, that minimizing human water use helps to preserve freshwater habitats for local wildlife and aquatic life, as well as reducing the need to build new dams and other water diversion infrastructure. What it says that if we are conserving water, then water is available in the water channels, water rivers, or say ponds and lakes, and ultimately what we could do, that we are preserving habitat, say wildlife or aquatic life, fishes, or say whatever is growing into the water, that can be saved. The second point is that there would be lesser requirement of diversion structures and construction of dam if we are conserving the water. So ultimately this objective is leading to saving of funds, and also habitat conservation. Now we are switching over to methods of water conservation. We have seen the objectives of water conservation. We have seen the need, the availability of water, and the requirement of water, and per capita requirement of water. Now let us see how we could conserve. What should we do so that water can be conserved, and what actions lead to, or what things which lead to conserving the water. Water conservation method could be an action, device, technology, or improved design. That conserving water doesn't mean that we are just switching off a tap which is running through. So that is not only water conservation, or some water supply pipeline which is damaged and we are repairing. So that is water conservation. It is not. Certainly not, because 80% of water required is in the agriculture. If we do not switch over to some actions, device, technology, then improved things in all these areas, then we are not making efficient use of water in such heavy demand domains or sectors of water, like agriculture. So what we have to take action immediately. What we could do, that we switch off a running tap, or we could repair a damaged water supply line. We could put a device efficient enough to reduce the water use. But we have to rely on technology. We have to rely on improved design of infrastructure which are supplying water, to, say, domestic purposes, for agriculture. So all these methods which lead, say, our action, devices, technology, and improved design, that would be part of the water conservation methods. These are implemented to reduce water loss, waste, or use. Water efficiency is a tool of water conservation. If we want to measure the water conservation, then what we need to measure is water efficiency. That a liter water, what is the output of that, that it is not getting wasted, half of that is being consumed, half of that is going to gutter lines, and just we are wasting out 50% of that. So that if we measure the water efficiency, say 1 cubic meter of water, how same water is proving boon for us in agriculture, in producing the hydroelectric power, or say for recreational purposes or for navigational purposes. So we need to measure the water efficiency. We have to enhance the water efficiency, and we have to use technology. We have to use the improved design to achieve this higher efficiency. These are a few methods which are traditionally used to conserve the water. We are also going to refer, available in many books, also written in the textbook of GTU for elements of civil engineering, and many other books, and on to internet website you will find that these are the methods for water conservation. So for how to conserve the water, that we should harvest rainwater. Generally you people create models, fabricate the model, you display model in many technical events in the colleges and at various other places, that the rooftop rainwater harvesting, we collect the water at the roof of all the built up infrastructure in the cities, towns and villages, and that collected water is led through the system of pipes into a recharge well, so that water is kept into underground system, or that water become part of groundwater, and we can fetch it when we require. Certainly not that the same water, but this is we are recharging the groundwater, and we are taking out some part part of that. So we can say that we've contributed some part into the groundwater. So rooftop rainwater harvesting is one of the very popular water conservation method adopted in rainwater harvesting. You might not have heard this surface runoff harvesting. That surface runoff, that is overland flow. We have seen this in the hydrologic cycle, that water which flows onto the land called the overland flow, and surface water also flows into the channels, rivers. When we don't construct the hydraulic structures like dams or weirs and don't divert it for the application of water into agriculture or for domestic purposes or any other purposes for that matter, then that water is going into the ocean, becoming or joining the salty water, becoming salty water and not suitable then for any use. So that water is getting ultimately wasted, means becoming useless for us. So we can say we need to work on that surface water is not joining the wastewater or say sea water or say salty water. For that matter, we have to have check it onto the land. So many times there are schemes from the government agencies that you arrest water, you apply water, you use water where it falls. Do not let it go beyond your boundaries of the farms. So construct bunds, construct check dams, construct ponds in your house, in your farm, in your backyard, and preserve that water in where you stay. So that is the holistic concept of watershed management. Watershed management that where you are having a stake in claiming the water. One of the prime thing in surface water conservation system is that we are not allowing that excess water to flow into the ocean and ultimately becoming the salty water. Rather, we are preserving it, letting it down to join the groundwater, or we are storing into the dam reservoirs, or say through the channels, through the weirs into the channels, and applying it to different requirements. So this is one of the method of water conservation, that we are harvesting the rainwater. We are not letting it go. Now, lakes and depressions. Mostly what is that the lakes are getting filled with the sedimentation, as I talked that during the heavy rain, intense rain, there is erosion and then sedimentation of depressions and lakes, and the storage capacity is getting reduced. What happens that with lesser storage capacity, rest of the fresh water is going just joining the channel and leading to the oceans or the brackish water or saline water bodies, and making their water unsuitable for the use. So we have to increase the storage capacity of such bodies, that the storage capacity of such bodies can be increased by desilting and widening. So that care we can take at our town level or village level, that the pond available, let us dig it up, let us go for widening of that pond. There are such society driven projects we can take up for preserving or say conserving water by increasing the capacity of storage in lakes. And depressions mostly used to store water for short term and allow it to trickle down or say seep down through the soil, topsoil, so that it become at least soil moisture for say 15 days or 30 days. In longer term, it will trickle down to the groundwater and becomes the groundwater. So that is also a method of water conservation. One more method is similar to this, increasing the capacity. Floodplains. Floodplains are mostly encroached by the poor people. They are making their habitat, or they are making their huts and started staying. Many times these floodplains are being encroached by the agricultural people, and they generally create such situation that water is not getting stored into. So what we could do, that floodplains we could use, we could dig it up at appropriate locations, that is scooping out of the earth in the floodplain. Floodplains are basically, if I explain this to you, that these are not the river course, but these are areas, floodplains on both sides of river, that left and onto the right side. These are areas where the water gets its path during heavy rains, when there is a flooding situation. So that area will be submerged during heavy rains or in flooding situation. But during the normal course, that area remains dry. So people start using this area for their own purposes and do not allow water to get accumulated, or say water to be there onto that floodplain. And we generally do not take it into the into consideration as a water conservation method, but we can take it as part of it through proper planning and scooping out and then filling it with the water and then allowing it to trickle down. In a longer time period, it become our water reserves. The simple method again is that there are quarries, there are pits along the railway lines, road lines, and all those pits gets flooded with the rainwater. They gets filled with rainwater, but mostly the water gets polluted, and the recharging is not proper. Most of the water get lost through the evaporation process, and very less water is trickling down or infiltrating into the soil mass. But if we maintain these, we create such quarries or say pits along the roadside or railway lines suitable for recharging, then they can become a very good part of water conservation methods. We can also think about the regenerating the ancient water bodies, like many ancient ponds, wells, reservoirs have been neglected for many reasons. These structures can be reused as small recharge points. Definitely, yes, they would contribute something in water conservation if we maintain them. Few more methods of water conservation, that we can use the paleo channels. Interestingly, the paleo channels are abandoned course of rivers or any channel or any streams. Generally, rivers don't flow in rigid regimes. They change their course. They meander mostly, like they go this way for few years and then that way for the other years. So the course or the path of the river which were abandoned by the river can be used for recharging, because those courses are filled with the very good kind of sand, and they are very good infiltrating zones. So we can use these channels which are abandoned by the rivers or the streams or such water channels. So they can be very, very beautiful recharge locations. So benefit of paleo channels can be taken into water conserving methods. Check dams is a man-made. Earlier we were discussing were naturally available or byproduct of the man-made facilities. But check dams are mostly, these are check dams, the definition, if you look at the check dam, then these are the smaller dams to store water upstream of a small channel. Height of these dams are hardly say few meters, 2-3 meters to sometimes 10 meter or 15 meter, not beyond that. So very small dam, water is stored upstream of this. Water is stored for two purposes. One is to check the soil erosion in agricultural farms. This is a very big trouble that the productivity suffers because of the erosion of the soil. And mostly in areas where there is a steep slope on the ground, on the farm, then what to do, that we have to create, that we have to curtail the water velocities flowing overland. So check dams are constructed to arrest the soil erosion, and at the same time what happens that that stored water will get infiltrated through the soil mass or through the banks of this check dam. Check dams are not the like concrete dams. They are made out of the locally available soil, so they themselves seeping through, and mostly water gets infiltrated through this body of the check dam and into the soil mass. So this is also a very good method of conserving water. This is last but very important. You can be part of this. You can play important role. Students, teachers, institutes, and the situations prevailing at your campus. So all can become a water conservation society kind of thing. So there are social solutions. Water conservation programs can be initiated at a local level by municipalities, state governments, even institute, private society, etc. can initiate or participate into. We can start conserving water at our campus. Common strategies include like public outreach campaigns. So you are most suitable for this. Then the tiered water rates, that charging progressively high prices as water use increases, or restrictions on outdoor water uses such as lawn watering and car or street washing. What are the benefits of water conservation? Quickly, because we are running out of time, I'm taking these few points very quickly. Water conservation help in improving the water availability in water scarce, improving the quality of water, reduction of water wastewater flows, especially overflowing of the gutters, maintain ecosystem and habitat protection, in cutting down the water bills. So that is, these are few of the benefits of water conservation. There are larger benefits which we'll learn later stress. Thank you very much. What we learned today is that we have seen the importance of the water conservation based on water requirements and water availability. Thank you very much.